Well, hey there, everybody. It's your boy, Mr. Perry, and today you're getting the old 2-for-1 special. Unit 9, Lessons 3 and 4. We're going to talk about method overriding and a little bit more with the keyword super. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so method overriding. What is method overriding? When a subclass has a public method with the same name and signature as a method in its superclass, Java will automatically run the method as defined in the subclass when called by an object of the subclass. So what that means is down here, public class superclass, public void print something, string parameter, and this is going to print a plus the parameter. Down here, public class subclass extends superclass, and again, we've got the same method, public void print something, string parameter. All right, so the same method name, the same signature, system.out.print z plus parameter. So if I create an object of the superclass and I go ahead and call print something with that object, it's going to print a plus the parameter. But if I create an object of the subclass, and if I use that object and I call the exact same method, it's going to print z plus the parameter. And that's because, again, this is an overridden method because, again, it's got the same signature and method name. So subclasses are often designed with method overriding in mind. It's not uncommon in a subclass to just go ahead and overwrite a superclass's method. But it does get a little bit more complicated, though, once we start including the keyword super, as you'll see. But it is a common practice when using inheritance. So we should expect to see it, and we should expect to use it in our own programs. Now, there's something really important here to understand. When you are creating an object, when you're in main and you are creating an object of a class, over here on the left-hand side, this is what's called the variable type. So lizard Frank, pet Sue, and pet Maya. On the left side of the equal sign, you indicate what's called the variable type. So Frank is a variable of the lizard class. Sue is a variable of type pet, and Maya is also a variable of type pet. Now, what's important to note here is that the variable type, what's over here on the left-hand side, this determines which methods a class can access. So what that means is Frank can access the methods that are in lizard as well as pet, because we're going to assume that lizard is a subclass of pet. So because Frank is a variable of the type lizard, that means Frank can use the methods that are in both the lizard class as well as the pet class. However, Sue and Maya are both variables of type pet, which means that they can only access methods that are in the pet class. And this will become important later on, but just kind of take note of that for now. Over here on the right-hand side, however, this is what's called the object type. And on the right side, when you indicate the object type, this determines whether it is an object of the superclass or the subclass. So lizard Frank equals new lizard. All right, so Frank is a variable of type lizard, and it is also an object of the lizard class. Down here, pet Sue equals new pet. All right, so Sue is a variable of type pet, and Sue is also an object of the pet class. But down here, something different happens. Pet Maya equals new lizard. All right, so it turns out as long as whatever over here, as long as this is a subclass of this, then you can go ahead and do this. I can create a variable, Maya, of type pet, but I can go ahead and call the lizard class's constructor, so it'll be an object of the lizard class. Now, the object type determines how the methods behave. So if they are overridden, so you'll see in a minute here, if you overwrite a method, and if an object is of a subclass type, then it's going to behave like the subclass. So what that means is Frank and Maya, they are both objects of the lizard class. So when you call their methods, they are going to behave like lizard objects. However, Sue is an object of the pet class. So when you call methods using Sue, she is going to behave like a pet. And this will make a little bit more sense after we look at an example here. So we're going to break this down looking at an example. So over here, public class adult, we're going to go ahead and skip the instance variables in the constructor. We're just going to look at three methods that it has. Public void eat, which will print munch munch. Public void do dishes, which will print I love dishes. And then public void play games, which will print I'm playing Pac-Man. Now over here, public class child extends adult, so child is a subclass of adult. And so it's going to inherit eat. However, it is overriding do dishes because a child doesn't love to do dishes. A child hates doing dishes. So we're going to go ahead and override it, and it's going to print I hate dishes. And then the child would not play Pac-Man. The child's going to play Fortnite. So again, we're going to override play games. And it is going to print I'm playing Fortnite. So child will inherit eat, but it's going to overwrite do dishes and play games. So hopefully that makes sense. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into main, and we're going to create some objects. We've got adult Sam equals new adult, Sam 35. We've got child Andrea equals new child, Andrea 10. And then we have adult Julia equals new child, Julia 12. All right. So we've got, three different situations here. So now we're going to look at what happens if we call Sam.eat, Andrea.eat, and Julia.eat. So go ahead and pause the video and, think about what's going to happen here and, what the outcome's going to be. But the good news is, let's see. Sam is, all right, so Sam is the variable of type adult. So is Julia, a variable of type adult. That means they have access to all of these methods, including eat. And then child, Andrea is a variable of type child, which means it has access to all of these methods, but because of inheritance, it also has access to eat. So it's going to go ahead and these are all going to compile, these are all going to work, and all of them are going to do the exact same thing. They're all going to say munch munch. Okay? Now, things are going to change when we call do dishes. If we take those same three objects and call the do dishes method, again, do dishes exists in the adult class. It also exists in the child class. So they all have access to them. But because Sam is the object type is adult, Sam is going to behave like an adult. However, Andrea and Julia are both objects of the child class. They are both, they are, again, objects of the child subclass. So they are going to behave like children, or they're going to behave like child objects when they are called. So what happens now is when Sam calls do dishes, we're going to get I love dishes. But when Andrea and Julia call do dishes, again, because they are objects of the child class, they're going to behave like child objects. So they'll say I hate dishes, I hate dishes. And then the same thing happens when we call play games. Again, both of the variable types, adult and child, have access to play games. But because Sam is an adult, or because Sam is an object of the adult class, Sam will behave like an adult. but because Andrea and Julia are objects of the child class, they will also behave like child objects. So we're gonna see I'm playing Pac-Man, I'm playing Fortnite, and then this should say I'm playing Fortnite again. Obviously, there's a spelling error on this slide. Now things are gonna change if we do this. What if in our subclass we add another method called useSlang, which is just going to print skibbity. So what's going to happen now is we have to consider the variable types. So remember, Sam is a variable of type adult. So what that means is Sam only has access to the methods that are in the adult class. Now, Andrea is a variable of type child, so Andrea has access to all of these methods plus the methods that are inherited. Now, where it gets interesting is Julia. So Julia is a variable of type adult, but Julia behaves like a child. So what this means is Julia only has access to these methods. Now, when Julia does these methods, any of them that are overridden, she will behave like a child. But Julia, it turns out Julia does not have access to useSlang. So what happens here is Sam.useSlang, that will cause an error because Sam is a variable of type adult, which does not have access to useSlang. Andrea, .useSlang, that's going to go ahead and print skibbity, no problem. But Julia.useSlang, again, that's going to cause an error because Julia is a variable of type adult, meaning she only has access to these methods, not to any methods that are only in the subclass. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. We're now going to just, remind ourselves of a couple of things regarding the keyword super. You always want to watch for the keyword super being used in a subclass. Now it can be used in a constructor. So remember, public class lizard extends pet. Here we have the lizard constructor, public lizard. Again, it's expecting name, age, and a habitat temperature. But super name age, this is where we're calling the superclass's constructor with name and age. And then again, this.habitat temp equals habitat temp. This is one that would be unique to the lizard class. So you got to watch out for super there. You also want to watch out if super is being used in a method call, because even if you're overriding a method, you do have the option to call a method from a superclass using the format super dot and then name of the method with the parentheses. So for instance, down in the lizard class's toString method, public class toString, system.out.print super.toString, and then system.out.print habitat temp plus habitat temp. So what this is going to do is this is going to call the superclass's toString method first and print that, and then it's going to print the extra info there. So just keep in mind, even though you are overriding methods, you always have to watch out for that keyword super. It can be used in a couple of different ways. All right, so, and then, okay, this is our final example. So here we go back to public class superclass, public void print something. Down here, public class subclass extends superclass, and public void print something. The first thing it's going to do is super dot method name, actually, it should say super dot print something parameter. And so it would print a plus parameter, and then it would print z plus parameter. So just watch out for those things. Anytime you see super dot something, that means it's either, well, if it's super dot and then the name of a method, it's calling a method from a superclass. If it's just super with the parentheses, then again, it's calling a superclass's constructor. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap things up here, guys. Method overriding occurs when a public method in a subclass has the same method signature as the public method in the superclass. Any method that is called must be defined within its own class or its superclass. A subclass is usually designed to have modified or overridden or additional methods or instance variables. A subclass will inherit all public methods from the superclass. For example, all set and get methods. These methods remain public in the subclass as well. And then the keyword super can be used to call a superclass's constructor or constructors, as well as its methods. The superclass's method can be called in a subclass by using the keyword super with the method name and then passing in the appropriate parameters. Whew. All right, guys, so that's it. I will see you in class. Don't forget to leave a question or a comment.